Hey there, Michelle. How's it going today?
Everything is good over here, Lindsay. I am so excited for today's episode because we are concluding a series,
Yes.
3-part series, and it's going to be really interesting. This one,
Yeah, it started with my adventure on the Spanish Steps in Rome, Italy, right? Always a good place to
Yeah.
start an adventure. And what did we do in parts 1 and 2? So what was 2576 all about, Michelle?
Yeah, so 2576 was Lindsay's language adventure on the Spanish Steps. And this idea came about from your experience on the Spanish Steps where a policeman told you he said it's not possible, right?
Right. It's not possible to sit down, right? To sit on the steps.
Right.
Right.
And we talked about more natural ways, I'll say, to tell somebody that they can't do something.
Exactly. And then part 2 of the series was over on business English, right, Michelle? That was business English 546, how to give permission in English. So this series is all about whether something is possible, how to make it possible. And then today, Michelle, what is part 3? What are we getting into for our listeners today?
So this is a little bit, I guess, kind of a little bit of a combo. So in this final part, we are going to talk about how to say something can happen, right? Something is okay to do, but there are conditions, right? Meaning it's not just a simple yes or no. There's something that has to happen in order for something to be okay.
This is where we get into higher level English. Right?
Oh, yeah.
For our listeners,
Right.
This, B2, C1 level. This is where we get into those more complex sentences, which we need on IELTS to score 7 or higher, right? So this is going to be so good for our listeners today.
Yeah, because it's not always just, yes, you can do this. No, you can't do this,
No.
right? There's sometimes there's more information that you need to get across. So we're going to help you do that today. But before we do that, we want to say a huge thank you to our reviewers.
Yeah, huge thank you today to Sam from Canada, who left us a beautiful review and said fantastic. Well, thank you, Sam. Somaya Mohamedi, thank you so much from Finland. And Ata Abdolaze from Iran on February 8th. Huge thank you to these amazing reviewers. Guys, these are our dedicated reviewers who took the time to go and leave us a review. So go ahead and do that, and you may get your name announced on the show, right, Michelle? We love to announce the names of the people that take the time to rate and review us.
Definitely. Yes. Please do so if you haven't already. It really means a lot to us.
Yes.
So,
yes.
All right. So again, this is about these conditions, right? So for example, a parent may tell their child they can go to a party if they've done their homework, or they can have I feel like this is my whole life is saying you can do this when you did this. Or
you could have dessert if you eat your dinner is what my parents used to say to me.
Yeah, you can. Yeah, exactly. Like always just trying to. Yeah, that's actually one of the techniques, I always hear about. Oh, you can say, instead of saying, no, you can't do something, say you can when you do something else, right? There's that, after you get dressed, you can do whatever.
Right.
So, but this is just a really important skill because like we said, it's not always just a simple yes or no. There's this gray area and we need to be able to express this. So today we're going to go over small phrases that will help you complete saying something maybe aloud, right? We don't know.
Yes, exactly. And, this goes beyond just like making little deals with your kid, right? I mean, many of our listeners, so many of our listeners have kids. I just realized that. So many of our listeners have families and they are making these little deals every morning to get their kid out of the house and on to school or daycare, right? But this also is used at the workplace for sure.
Oh, yeah. And a lot of these expressions they're really a little more formal sounding. So, we're going to give you a lot. Yeah. So we're going to go over these small phrases that will help you. And, actually in our examples, we're going to use some phrases that we taught on the other episode. Okay. So look out for that. Make sure you listen to those other episodes. So,
all right, let's dive into it.
All right. What's the first one, Lindsay?
Okay, this one definitely is formal. I probably wouldn't
not
use
for
this
the
with
kids.
Family, not for the kids. They'll be like, "What?
What are you talking about?"
Right.
Yeah.
So the phrase is provided that. So you are allowed to use the party room provided that you have it completely cleaned after you're done. This I could see more in the workplace, Michelle. right?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Or she's allowed to use my office for work, provided that she brings her license to sign in at security. So again, you're imagining somebody, a friend of yours needs to borrow your office. She has some work to do, but you just need to let her know you can come, but you got to bring your license, right?
Exactly. And then we go into something a little bit more simple, which is if or only if. And then there's the if and only if, the famous if and only if, but maybe we'll get to that as a bonus later.
That's a good one. That is true.
Yeah.
Only if, yeah.
What would be some examples, Michelle?
Yeah, so that works on our end only if we get confirmation 48 hours before.
Yeah. Or you're welcome to use my car if you have it back before 3 p.m. Maybe something you'd say to a teenager, right?
Yes. Yep, exactly. So again, these are, you can do these things, but there are conditions.
Yes, there are. And this is how life works, right? Usually this is how life works. Subject to is another one. This is one that I see written a lot of times in a sign or something, right? So feel free to use the kitchen, but it's subject to availability. You have to check the chart.
Yeah. So maybe you want to have a lunch meeting at work, and you have to actually sign up to reserve the spot.
Yeah. What would be another one?
Or you can borrow my iPad subject to finishing your project. So I wanted to bring this up because that's how you would use it, but that sounds a little formal.
I think I've never said that.
Yes, exactly. So like Lindsay pointed out, this is a lot written or very formal. Yeah. So I would save it for those situations.
Exactly. Okay. And then with approval would be the next one. You can adopt a dog with approval of the adoption agency. Right. Yeah. So
did you have to go through a big approval process for
we had to submit like a profile because I had never had a dog. My partner had a dog as a child. So we had to kind of describe our experience with dogs and puppies a little bit, and describe like our home situation. But he was part of a litter and they're like, okay, you want him or not? Like they were trying to get rid of him for sure. They wanted him out the door. Poor baby.
Well, you're giving him a very good home.
Thank you.
Or you're welcome to come to our house with approval from your parents. So maybe, it's your kids' friends. And sometimes parents do talk in a slightly more formal way.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, some parents do. They just address their kids. You know what it makes me think of? Miracle on 34th Street. You know how there was that whole thing where like there was a whole narrative with Santa Claus and they have their whole thing with Santa, but they're very formal the way they talk to their daughter.
It's been so
movie.
Long. Yeah.
If you watched again, that's kind of what we're getting at here. Some parents are just more formal. That's just the way they speak to their kids, right?
Yeah.
You can use that printer with supervisor approval. Okay. Good.
And then we'll do one more. So this is also a little, this is a little more neutral, not formal, not informal, as long as. So feel free to bring your friend to my party as long as she follows the dress code.
Yeah. Or you can drive the company car as long as you fill it up before you come back. Yeah. I'd say that one is the most common for me.
I totally agree. You're going to hear this one everywhere. This one rolls off the tongue. Totally. I mean, I think if is also, of course, huge. Subject to with approval. Those are the more formal ones, maybe written. But as long as you're going to hear that all the time.
Yeah, this will work for your social life, your family life, your work life. Basically, you could apply this everywhere in your life, right?
Right, everywhere.
Yeah. Which one do you think is best for connection, Michelle? Excuse me.
Yeah, I do think it's as long as, just because I think that's just the most universal one.
Yeah.
You can certainly use that at work. You can use it outside of work. So I would say that that's going to make people feel like the most comfortable, not like you're bossing them around, but sometimes you do need these more intense expressions. Oh, provided that I didn't say that one too. Yeah.
Ooh, provided that, yeah. Provided that
yeah. So as long as, I don't know, that's what I think. Any other thoughts about that, Lindsay?
Yeah, I just think the more formal we get, the more distance we are trying to place between us and who we're speaking to. And there might be a time for that at work, or if you're instituting a policy, for example, if you work in HR, we've talked about this before. If you send out an email to your whole company, you do want to create a little bit of formality, a little distance, right, about that new policy. But when we're standing in front of someone, trying to build a connection, going for the more basic ones like as long as or if is really good. Okay.
Agree. Yeah, definitely. Yes. All right, let's do a role play. So we're not going to use all of these, but we're going to use a nice chunk. So in this role play, I am trying to get you to let me borrow your car.
Oh, boy.
We're friends.
Okay.
Okay. It would be so helpful if you would let me use it for the weekend.
I mean, you can use it as long as you fill it up after.
I can do that.
And provided that you pay attention to all the traffic laws. I know how you like to drive.
I haven't gotten a ticket in years. And when I get my car back from the shop, you can always use it if you do me this favor.
Okay.
Thank you.
I know how you drive, Michelle. You get stopped for going too slow.
Yeah, exactly. I was thinking that too. I'm like, oh, yeah.
So we used a few of the good ones here, like as long as. I said you can use it as long as you fill it up after. What do we mean fill it up? Like fill it up with marshmallows?
With
gas. Okay, gas.
No.
Okay.
That'll be a problem. Yeah, gas. And then use that, and provided that you pay attention to all the traffic laws. Now here, it's kind of in a jokey way. You're kind of you're taking on a parental role.
Yeah, a little bit,
right?
A little bit. Yeah.
Yeah. I know how you like to drive, so you're joking around in a way.
I'm joking around and showing ownership of the car, right? That kind of thing.
Yeah.
And then you said, I haven't gotten a ticket in years, and when I get my car back from the shop, you can always use it if you do me this favor. Okay.
Ooh.
All right. Well, we're making deals now, Michelle.
Yeah, exactly. And I also wanted to point out that what you said earlier, if and only if, right? What do we think about that? Any thoughts of why we would say that?
That one's a little bonus for today. I think that one's just emphatic. I think you might hear that used in families, I guess, or I don't know, if you're just trying to be a little more dramatic.
Right, a little more dramatic. Yeah. The conditions matter even more. Maybe you've had trouble with this in the past. Like you can go to the movies if and only if you actually clean your room this time, right?
Exactly. You're just having more fun, I think. You're just being more dramatic, having more fun. The stakes are higher, and that's just another option for our listeners for today.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Good.
Absolutely. Well, this series has been a lot of fun. Guys, make sure you go check out the other episodes so that you can get the whole picture of all that we've talked about. But yeah, Lindsay, any other takeaways before we head off the mic?
Well, I'm glad we covered this, things being possible, what's possible, how to give permission, and the conditions today, because life is complex, right? Life is full of these complexities. It's not always just, it's okay to sit here or it's not okay to sit here.
Right.
It's okay to sit here under what conditions, right? And so that's what we got into. We escalated the complexity in this series for our listeners. So I love that.
Yeah. Excellent. All right, Lindsay. Well, if you're ready, we'll get off the mic.
Let's do it.
If and only if.
If and only if you're ready. I'm ready. All right, Michelle. I'll see you next time.
All right. Bye. Bye, guys.
Bye.